All right, what is up? Welcome to this little SLG Kill Team Learn to Play presentation put on by yours truly, Luca, in anticipation for the Learn to Play event that I will be hosting on Thursday, September 10th. If you are taking the time to watch this and get to know the game a little bit beforehand with me, I love it, appreciate it. It's going to be great. And if you have any questions after watching this, just feel free to ask me in the Discord. I'll be happy to answer anything. Before we dive right in, I do have some overview of what I'm going to be talking about. So I will be starting by covering generally what Kill Team is, some general things and quirks about the game, stuff that's not super specific that I think is kind of important to know and not things that are going to be taught to you in the core rulebook. Then I'll be covering kill teams, where to find the information you need on each of those kill teams so that you can make a decision on what kill teams are interesting to you, which team you might want to play or look into or pick up or anything like that. Then I'll be covering a turning point, how to go through a turning point, what to look out for, and how actions and activations all function. And lastly, I'll be covering scoring and how scoring works in the game of Kill Team. So let's get right into it. The first most important thing that you should take away, if you're going to take away anything from this, is to use the Kill Team app because it has everything you need. The Kill Team app is going to have the core rules light edition for free, and it's also going to have the rules for every single kill team currently available in 3rd edition, which is what we'll be playing, and it is just a great source for everything. It's going to have everything you need. Now, I do say that it has everything you need. Technically speaking, it doesn't have everything because it does not have the full core rules. Those are only available by purchase of the physical copy of the core rulebook from Games Workshop, but Wahapedia has an online version that they've made, and it is completely searchable, which makes it very accessible, and I would recommend checking that out to supplement some of the rules that you can't find in the Kill Team app. So let's start with the basics. Kill zones. Kill zones are going to be the battlefields in which your games of Kill Team take place on. Currently, there are 4 kill zones in 3rd edition Kill Team: Gallo Dark, Beta Decima, Volcus, and Tomb World, with another kill zone releasing in about a month to a month and a half by, mid-October-ish. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to see. It should come out in a box that will have 2 teams, a new mission deck that I'll talk about in a second, as well as this new kill zone terrain set. Going to be interesting. So, Approved Ops. Approved Ops are the mission deck for Kill Team. This is going to be the equivalent to the chapter approved mission deck from 40K. Now, if you notice in this picture, like I said just a second ago, this is the 2025 mission deck, and the 2026 mission deck will also be coming out in just about a month and a half. And so I would recommend, honestly, not picking up this card pack because it will immediately become obsolete when the new one comes out next month, or not next month, in October. And I recommend just using a combination of Wahapedia plus Tabletop Battles or a different third-party source to get those rules info on the Approved Ops card pack, or playing a simplified version of the game as detailed in the core rulebook until you get your hands on this new mission deck. But this will have everything you need once you finally get your hands on it to play the game. So, kill teams. Kill teams are separated into 2 different groups, those groups being classified and declassified. Classified teams are newer. They've been released in the last 4 years, and they are importantly legal in Games Workshop sanctioned tournaments or classified tournaments. Classified teams will also have a dedicated box for them that's going to have that orange logo. We love orange in Kill Team world. That orange Kill Team logo will tell you that it's still a classified team if you can find that box, unless the box is old, right? Always double check if you're looking for a classified team. Declassified teams are older. They're released 4 or more years ago. They are not legal in GW tournaments, but they're totally acceptable in casual play and local tournaments where the TO says that it is a declassified tournament. If we ever get to the point where our community is big enough for tournaments, I would definitely be open to running declassified tournaments if that's what people want. Once declassified, teams do not receive rules in the next edition. So the next edition of Kill Team is going to be coming out around the same time as now, next year in 2027, end of the year 2027. And so any teams that are currently declassified or become declassified in a month and a half with the new season will not receive rules in the next edition next year. And that's important to look out for if you are picking up a kill team and you want to be able to play that kill team for a long time and you want to be able to carry that on through to the next edition. Don't pick up a declassified team. It's also important to just think about declassified teams. If you do want to play them, they lose their dedicated kill team box, and so you'll have to assemble that team through other 40k boxes. If you're playing a Space Marine kill team, you may need a variety of Space Marine boxes in order to build a kill team. Or, for example, something like the Eldari Corsair Void Reavers, that is just the kill team box. They took the Corsair Void Scarred box, re-released it as the Corsair Void Reavers. Done. You can just pick up this box and play that as a kill team. But they're declassified, so they will not be playable next edition. As opposed to the Mandrakes, this is my personal kill team. This team is still classified, so they don't have a dedicated 40k box. They only come in this kill team box, and they will still be completely legal, rules, balance, updates, everything next edition until they become declassified. Then they'll be playable through the end of the edition. And then in the following edition after that, they will no longer be legal. So let's talk about kill teams, starting with Operative Selection. Operative Selection is going to be a great page to take a look at when you're first looking at kill teams, because this is going to give you an idea of what sort of composition you're going to be looking for, and importantly, what archetypes your kill team has. This is going to relate to what mission types you can take from that approved ops deck. And this is going to stay even with the new 2026 approved ops deck. It's going to be the same, where these archetypes are going to matter. They're going to be important for that. So for example, my Mandrakes as my kill team have Infiltration and Recon. There are 4 total different types of archetypes, each one with its own little bit of play style. Then you get down into where it says operatives. So my kill team, I can take 1 Night Fiend as a leader operative and 8 other operatives from the following list of Abyssal, Chooser of the Flesh, Dirgemaw, Shade Weaver, Warrior. And then there's this little caveat text down here that says, other than the Warrior operative, your kill team can only include each operative on this list once. And what that basically means is that the Abyssal, Chooser of Flesh, Dirgemaw, and Shade Weaver, these 4 are going to be specialists. You can only have one of them. They're going to have perhaps unique weapon profiles, unique abilities, better wound characteristics, better saves, all of that sort of stuff. They're just going to be slightly better than your basic warrior or your most basic model, right? Your most basic Space Marine, your most basic Sister of Battle, whatever it may be, right? Your most basic model, and then you get slightly better in the specialists. Typically, specialists are limited to 1 of each in your kill team, and more often than not, you'll be taking all the specialists you possibly can, and then filling out the rest of your slots with normal guys. So let's talk about data cards. Data cards in Kill Team are going to be very, very similar to data cards in 40k. You'll notice you have the operative name, where you would find your unit name in 40k. You're also going to have your weapon profiles, stats on those weapons, such as number of attacks, how easy it is to hit with that attack, the damage, both normal damage and critical damage, denoted by this slash mark, with normal damage on the left, critical damage on the right, as well as the rules for your weapon. Now, a lot of these weapon rules are kind of confusing and they're not self-explanatory. I would definitely recommend checking out Wahapedia's appendix page. They have an in-depth explanation of every single one of these rules, and you can easily search it and find out what all the weapon rules do when you need to find them. Some other important parts of the data card that you're going to find will be your abilities. Here, this is a 2-page data card because there's a lot of abilities, and so there's abilities on both sides. And then your operatives stats. The most important and unique stat that you'll find on your data card that is unique from 40k is going to be this APL stat, which stands for Action Point Limit. That is related to how many actions an operative can perform in one activation. Each action has an action point cost, as you would see down here, 1 action point. And that means that if I were to perform this action, I would have only 1 action point left to perform a different action like reposition. Then you have your move characteristic. This is how far your operative can move. Certain actions will ask you to move some amount related to your move stat, such as the reposition action, where you can move up to your move stat in inches. Then you'll have your save. This is how you need to roll to be successful when rolling defense dice. If you are being shot at, This is your save characteristic. That's important. And then your wounds, which is just how much life your models have. Another important thing to take a look at on data cards, if you're thinking about proxying, is this right here in the corner, the base size. Base sizes are wildly important in Kill Team. Just a difference of 4 millimeters can make a crazy difference. 28 millimeter base versus a 32. And so always make sure that if you're going to be proxying, make sure that your models have the correct base size for their Kill Team operative size. It's just cannot be overstated how much that matters. Let's talk about these abilities real quick. Abilities come in 3 main forms. There are strategic gambit abilities, as you'll see with this big bold strategic gambit text. These are abilities that can be activated during the gambit step that I'll talk about shortly. And there are also action point, unique action abilities. These are actions that are unique to this operative. So this Dirge Maw operative is the only operative in my Kill Team that can perform this action. And then finally, there are static actions. These will not look like this action ability, and they will not say strategic gambit on them. They will just say name of the ability, text of the ability. And they're typically static effects that are always happening or contingent on something else happening, whatever, but they're always there. And those are the 3 different types of abilities. So some other stuff to look for when you are looking to pick your Kill Team, figure out which one you want to play with and things like that, is going to be looking at the faction rules. This page will have all of the rules unique to your faction. What makes your faction your faction? Aside from the operatives, how do they play? How are your rules going to impact your playstyle and your gameplay? That also goes for your equipment, although sometimes to a lesser extent, your equipment will impact your playstyle a little less. And then your ploys. Ploys are the equivalent to stratagems in 40K. This is going to be what you spend your command points on. Strategy ploys come in 2 forms. They come in strategy ploys and firefight ploys. Strategy ploys are a form of strategic gambit. That's the same as the strategic gambit here in this ability. You use them at the same part of the game. That is the strategy step that we'll talk about. Strategy ploys are used then, and firefight ploys are used during the firefight phase, which is the bulk of the gameplay. That is where most of it happens, and you can use those when the ploy itself says it should be used. If that means use it when your operative is shooting, you can use it when your operative is shooting, and not when your operative is not being shot or not shooting. Definitely check out all these. These are going to be very important to how your Kill Team works, how it functions, whether or not it's interesting or fun to play with. So let's talk about the gameplay, starting with turning points. Turning points are the equivalent of a battle round in 40K, and there are 4 turning points in a game of Kill Team. To start the turning point, you start the turning point. Nothing actually really happens in this step, but then you move to the strategy phase, followed by the firefight phase, and finally the turning point ends and you begin the next turning point. In the strategy phase, there are 4 main steps. First, you roll off, where each player will roll 1d6 and the winner gets to pick which of the 2 players has the initiative. The initiative is a static effect that is given to one player for the entirety of the battle round, and then another player will get it at the beginning of the next turning point when players roll off again. So then each player will ready operatives, which means turning over all those little tokens that you've got on each of your operatives to show that they have not yet been used. Then each player will gain 1 command point. The player that does not have initiative is instead going to gain 2 command points as a little kickback for having to go second. Then we go to the gambit step, which is where a lot of the interesting parts of the strategy phase happen. Players will alternate using strategic gambits until each player has passed subsequently, meaning player 1 has passed and player 2 has passed immediately afterwards. But if player 1 passes, player 2 activates, player 1 has another opportunity to activate, or player 1 can pass and then player 2 can pass. There's nuances to how you want to mind game the gambit phase. It's interesting and fun. That's the gambit phase, but gambits, as I was mentioning before, come in 2 primary forms, both strategy ploys that will each cost 1 command point, and strategic gambits. Sometimes you will find strategic gambits from other sources, such as your mission deck or your faction rules or your operative rules. Well, this is an operative rule, But faction rules or mission decks will also be sources of strategic gambits at times, but these are the two primary places that you'll find strategic gambits, mostly strategy ploys for one command point or strategic gambits on your abilities. After the strategy phase is over, you move on to the firefight phase. In the firefight phase, play starts with the person who has the initiative. They get to choose one of their operatives to activate. When you choose an operative to activate, you begin by determining its order. Orders are a unique mechanic in Kill Team that I'll talk about on the next slide. Then you get to perform actions up to your action point limit, or less so than if you choose. And once you have decided you are done performing actions or you are unable to perform any more actions, your operative is expended and the other player gets to activate an operative. That is right. This game has alternating activations, and that is what makes it so tactical, so unique. Well, not really unique, but so different from 40K, and in my opinion, so fun. Now, if you are playing a kill team that has a very low number of models, say 5 models, you definitely want to go and check out this counteract rule. It's also, I'd say, important to go check it out and read about it in the core rules, even if you are not playing a low model count kill team, just because I don't have time, or I don't think anyone wants to listen to me cover every single rule that's in the game. Definitely go read those rules and check out counteracting. It's not too complicated, but something to know about if you need to know it. So what are orders? Orders come in two forms. They come in engage orders and conceal orders. I have added some nice little flavor text to get an idea of what it's like for your operatives when they're on each order. But for gameplay purposes, certain actions have restrictions that are based on orders. Your operative cannot shoot while it's on conceal, right? Something like that. This is very important for how the game is played, and every single operative will always start the game on a conceal order. So actions. Actions have a few things you got to look out for when looking at them. First off is going to be the action point cost. This is how many action points it costs to use that ability. If you do not have enough action points left based on your action point limit, you can't use that ability. Easy as that. You also have the action effect, which is here on this little green arrow, typically. Then you will have action restrictions, denoted by red. And this is what says when you cannot use that action. And then here on reposition, because it is so important, removing is so important and pivotal to how the game works, there are some more little things that you have to follow. If you meet these restrictions to perform the action, you must also meet these restrictions when performing the action. So there's another green that means, hey, here's some extra stuff you have to do while doing the action. There is a list of universal actions both on the Kill Team app, Core Rules Lite, and on Wikipedia. Definitely check those out, read all of them, familiarize yourself with them, because every single one of your operatives will be performing nearly all of those actions every game. One of those actions is the shoot action. When you have met the requirements marked in red for the shoot action, you will follow some simple steps. The first step is going to be selecting a valid target. But what is a valid target? Well, it depends on the order of the target. If your target operative is on an engage order, it is a valid target when visible. Visibility is determined by being able to draw a 1 millimeter thick line from the head of the shooting operative to any part of the model of the target operative. A concealed operative is a valid target when it is visible and when it is not in cover. But how does cover work in Kill Team? Because it doesn't work like cover in 40K. Well, here's how it works. In Kill Team, cover is claimed when an operative is in control range. All operatives have a 1-inch control range. When an operative is within control range of terrain that is intervening with the active operative or the shooting operative. So here we see the target operative is in cover. Here we see the active operative is trying to shoot at the target operative. Because this red line passes through the terrain, this terrain feature is considered intervening terrain. When there is intervening terrain within an inch of the target operative, that operative has the benefit of cover. These target lines can be drawn from any point on the shooting operative's base to both sides of the target operative's base. As you see in this diagram down here, it is drawn from the left side of the base, whereas here it is drawn from the center of the base, but in both cases it goes to opposing sides of the target's base. In the bottom example, the target operative is not in cover because these targeting lines do not go through this terrain. So despite the fact that the target operative is within control range of the terrain, this terrain feature is not intervening on the shot, and thus the operative does not have cover. Terrain can also be intervening when it is not within control range of the target operative. So if there were a terrain feature right here crossing through this line, that terrain feature is not providing cover to the operative, but it is still intervening. When there's intervening terrain outside of control range of the target operative, that is considered obscuring terrain, which is its own rule, and I would definitely recommend going and checking that out in the core rules. So let's say in this example right here, this operative is on Conceal. They are not a valid target because they have the benefit of cover. But if they were on Engage, they would be a valid target, even though they have cover. So they would get a benefit of cover in their saving throws, but they would still be able to be shot at. In this bottom example, this operative is a valid target regardless of order because they cannot claim cover. So rolling defense dice. This is what you're going to do after your operative has been selected as a valid target, as the defender. So Kill Team doesn't have wound rolls, which means it is just straight up attacker rolls their dice, they get successes, they get failures, and they get critical successes, and then there is no second step to mitigate that further. If you noticed on the data cards, there is no strength and there is no toughness in Kill Team. So defense dice are used as a form of saving throw to mitigate damage. Every operative will only ever have 3 defense dice. No more, sometimes less. And that is because Kill Team wants lethal shooting. Shooting is scary. You don't want your operatives to get shot at, they will die. Defense dice are used to block successful attack dice. 2 normal defense successes can block 1 critical attack success. So in this example, the defender has rolled 1 normal defense dice success, and the attacker has rolled a critical success onto attack, as well as 2 normal successes to attack. In this example, the defender would then block 1 normal defense or 1 normal attack dice and take a crit and a normal worth of damage. When fighting and retaliating, there is a unique sequence that players will go through in order to perform that action or when the action has been performed. So once the active operative or the attacking operative has met the requirements to perform the action, has spent the action point to perform that action, then they have selected their target, the defending operative or the retaliating operative. Both players will choose a melee weapon profile from their operatives and then roll their attack dice. The operative that engaged the fight, so the fighting or attacking operative, will resolve the first attack dice of the sequence, and then resolutions will alternate. Operatives can either strike or block with their successful dice, and similarly to shooting, 2 normal successes can block 1 critical success, or crits can go 1 for 1, 1 crit for 1 crit. So when you strike, you remove one of your dice from your pool of unresolved die. So let's say this attacker has struck with this 3. They will then remove that 3 from their pool of dice to resolve, and they will deal damage equal to their normal damage stat to the defending player. Then let's say the defender chooses to block with one of their normals. They will take their 3, move it to their resolved dice area and remove it from their unresolved dice section, and they will also remove an unresolved normal success from the attacker because they are blocking. Then the attacker chooses to strike once more with a crit, dealing damage equal to their critical attack damage. And then the defender has 2 dice remaining, but no dice left to block. And so they choose to instead go all out with their damage and strike 2 more times, dealing 2 times their normal attack damage to the attacker. So lastly, the last thing we're talking about here is ops. There are 3 different ops in Kill Team: the crit op, the kill op, and the tac op. These are your 3 methods of scoring, 3 methods to winning the game. Each game you will be simultaneously attempting to score on all 3 of these methods. The crit op is going to be the primary mission. It is shared between players, and there are 9 different options, and it is primarily focused on controlling and or performing mission actions on objective markers. Then you will have the kill op. This is a constant mission. The kill op is always the same, it is always there, and it is just benefits for getting kills. You kill your enemy operatives, you get some kickback. Lastly is the tac op. Tac op is going to be unique per each player, each game, and what kill team you have determines your options. If you remember earlier when talking about your kill team composition, I mentioned archetypes. This is where archetypes come into play. So seek and destroy is one of the 4 different archetypes that the game has. Your tac ops are always hidden at the game start, and you can reveal them when they say reveal in their rules section to then be able to score them. And you cannot score a tac op without revealing it. And this tac op is often going to drastically change how you play the game and how you approach different missions, and is a really fun, unique mechanic that I love from Kill Team. You can score a max of up to 6 points per op, plus 3 points for your chosen primary op for a total of 21 points, right? 3 times 6 is 18, plus up to 3 more is 21. Now, what is a primary op? Primary op is basically which of your 3 ops, the crit op, the kill op, or the tac op, that you think you will be scoring the most points in. At the start of the game, you select a primary op at the same time you select your tac op, and you will score 50% extra points rounded up from that op. So if you score 2 points on the crit op, and that is your primary, you will score an additional 1 point. If you score 5 points on the kill op, and that is your primary, you'll score an additional 3 points. If you score 4 points on the tac op, and that is your primary, you'd score an additional 2 points. Well, that's actually all I have to talk about for right now. All I have to say as the basics of what I think it's important to cover before your first ever game of Kill Team. Some things that are maybe a little confusing, a little bit harder to read or hard to find in the core rules. And just, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to message me in the Kill Team server or the Kill Team channel. Just send me a message, ping me, and I will get back to you. Remember, Thursday, September 10th, that is going to be the Learn to Play event. It'll be in the Discord. I will post reminders for those of you who are going to be attending. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.